You opened this video and already thought about checking something else. That's not an insult. That's the point. Because something has happened to the human mind over the last 2 decades, and most people can feel it without being able to name it. The sense that focus is harder than it used to be, that books feel longer, that a 10-minute video requires effort, that sitting still with a single thought for more than 30 seconds feels almost physically uncomfortable. You're not lazy, you're not broken, but something is genuinely different. And the answer starts with a number you've probably already heard. In 2015, a report circulated claiming that the average human attention span had dropped from 12 seconds in 2000 to 8 seconds. Less than a goldfish. It spread everywhere. News articles, TED Talks, marketing conferences. Everyone quoted it. There was one problem. The study didn't exist. Researchers who tried to track it down found no credible source. The goldfish comparison was fabricated. The 8-second number was invented. And yet, the stat became fact because it felt true. Because everyone who shared it already knew from their own experience that something had changed. That's the real story, not the fake number. The fact that everyone believed it immediately. So what is actually happening? Your attention is not dying, but it is being trained. The human brain is the most adaptable organ ever produced by evolution. Give it a new environment consistently, and it rewires itself to match. This process is called neuroplasticity, and it doesn't care whether the rewiring is good for you or not. It just responds to what you do most. And what most people do most now is switch. Microsoft's research on task switching found that after an interruption, it takes an average of 23 minutes to fully return to a state of deep focus. 23 minutes! And the average office worker is interrupted or self-interrupts every 3 to 5 minutes. That's not a focus problem. That's a focus catastrophe. But here's what nobody talks about. We are doing this to ourselves. The smartphone in your pocket is not designed to be useful. It's designed to be irresistible. Every app that competes for your attention is built on the same architecture, variable reward schedules, the same psychological mechanism that makes slot machines impossible to put down. You don't check your phone because there's something there. You check it because there might be something there. The uncertainty is the addiction. The notification could be nothing. It could be something that matters. Your brain can't tell the difference, and it finds the not knowing unbearable. Dopamine, the neurotransmitter most associated with reward, doesn't spike when you get the reward. It spikes in anticipation of the reward. The wanting, not the having. Every time you reach for your phone without knowing what's there, you get a hit of dopamine. Every time you scroll, not looking for anything specific, but hoping something will appear, you are in a dopamine loop. And dopamine loops, repeated often enough, carve grooves in the brain. The more you practice switching, the better your brain gets at switching. The more you practice the shallow skim, the worse it gets at the deep dive. But here's the part that should concern you. It's not just that sustained attention is getting harder, it's what we use sustained attention for. Your prefrontal cortex requires uninterrupted focus to do its best work. Not just 20 minutes of focus, but the specific quality of focus that comes after the distractions have faded, after the mental noise has settled, after you've sat with a problem long enough for something original to emerge. Psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi called this state flow. Cal Newport calls it deep work. The name doesn't matter. The experience does. It's the state where the best ideas happen, where problems that seemed unsolvable suddenly clicks into place. And you can only get there through sustained, uninterrupted attention. There is no shortcut, which means every time you break that attention, every time you reach for the phone, open a new tab, check the notification, you're not just losing a few seconds, you're resetting the entire process. You're climbing back down the mountain. Now, here's the strange part. Boredom used to be the doorway to that state. When there was nothing to look at, the mind turned inward. It drifted. It daydreamed. And daydreaming, which most of us were taught to suppress, and which productivity culture treats as failure, is where the default mode network does its most important work. The default mode network activates in the absence of external stimulation. It processes emotions, makes unexpected connections between ideas, solves problems you weren't consciously working on. Boredom was its natural trigger. We've eliminated boredom. Not fully, not everywhere, but the idle moments that used to produce it, the queue at the coffee shop, the commute, the 2 minutes before a meeting starts, are now filled. Every gap is plugged with content. Every silence is replaced with stimulation. And we've lost something we didn't know we were protecting. Studies have found that people given a period of unstructured boredom before a creative task perform significantly better on that task than people who were entertained before it. The bored brain comes to the problem primed. It's been running in the background, making connections, doing the work you can't observe. The entertained brain comes to the problem cold. Here is what's actually at stake. This isn't about whether you can read a book for an hour. This is about the quality of your thinking, about whether you can hold a complex idea in your head long enough to understand it fully, about whether you can sit with an uncomfortable emotion long enough to process it, rather than reaching for something to make it go away. Chronic distraction is not just an inconvenience. It is a mode of being in which you are always present but never fully there, where experience slides off the surface of your mind without leaving a mark, where you consume enormous amounts of information and retain almost none of it. You feel busy. You feel stimulated. You feel like you are engaging with the world. But nothing is sticking. And here's the thing about neuroplasticity that cuts both ways. The brain rewires itself toward what you do most, but it can also rewire away from it. The plasticity is real in both directions. People who deliberately practice sustained attention, who read long-form books, who meditate, who sit with one task and resist the pull toward the next thing, do not permanently lose the ability to focus. They just have to fight for it. The ability to hold your attention on one thing long enough for it to mean something is not dead. But for most people, it's no longer the default. It's an act of will, a practice, something you have to choose actively against the current. Which raises the question nobody wants to sit with long enough to answer. What are you doing with the attention you have left?